Welcome back. With the time that we have remaining, let's hear some member statements which provoked ministerial responses in the National Assembly last week. We pick up on a statement from the Chief Whip of the Congress of the People, Ms. Kilian.
Speaker, I wish on behalf of COPE to express our serious concern about attempts by the Minister of State Security to persuade the NCOP ad hoc committee to reinstate draconian clauses of the secrecy bill that were removed or amended during extended and painstaking negotiation, public hearings and deliberations. By moving in at this stage, the Honourable Minister is acting like an executive enforcer to ensure that securocratic control becomes entrenched in South Africa by leaning on the legislative arm and ANC parliamentarians to sing to his tune. In the process, he is also relegating the extended consultations and public participation, hearings, etc., into a public sham, having decided in advance what the executive wants by way of statute to shut down access to information and to silence the media, regardless of what the people, including prominent struggle veterans like Advocate George Bisos, had to say. This is yet another example of unmitigated interference in the parliamentary process, which is an independent pillar of our constitutional democracy. As opposition, we would like to record our strongest opposition and express our total dissatisfaction with the Minister's attempt to close down reasonable and necessary channels of information flow that will never pass the test of constitutionality. We therefore call on the patriotic conscience of every member of parliament to resist party pressures and reject totalitarian,
your time has expired,
unconstitutional legislation.
I would like to respond to the false and the misleading statement from the Chief Whip of the COPE. In her statement, she was giving an impression as if I, as a responsible minister, was imposing myself to the committee in the NCOP and bulldozing the processes which are happening that side. That's far from the truth, Speaker. The truth is, it is the committee in the NCOP which invited myself to come and respond to the progress they are doing in the NCOP. Secondly, I commended the efforts which are being done by the NCOP, but it's also my responsibility to highlight the areas which may be problematic while they are making those amendments. That was the sole purpose of going to interact. It was on invitation of the committee. Secondly, thirdly, Mr. Speaker, the issues we're raising were not forcing the members of the committee, but we're highlighting on those issues which may be unconstitutional, because it's our responsibility that we should pass a constitutionally sound legislation, but an implementable, also equally implementable legislation. The second item I'd like to respond is a statement by a member of the ANC, which was commenting on the recent International Solidarity Conference. Mr. Speaker, this was one of the most important conferences which happened recently in South Africa, because it also outlined the role played, particularly by President Tambo, in ensuring that there is solidarity across the world to fight the common evils of oppression of our people. What became quite clear also that from now we have to join hands, because there were delegates from Europe, from Americas, from Asia, from Africa, and all over the world, that the common enemy now is underdevelopment of our people. We should learn from each other on how to deal with the challenges facing our people today. I thank you very much.
The DA welcomes the support from Basic Education Minister Angie Masheka for the school rationalisation process in the Western Cape. Minister Masheka reportedly stated that the Western Cape Education MEC Donald Grant had applied his mind and is satisfied that the decision is in the best interest of learners and that she would not have any discomfort in supporting him. The ANC Alliance members in the Western Cape, including SATU, have responded to the school's rationalisation program with political opportunism and a total disregard for the best interest of learners. They are silent on the hundreds of school closures in other ANC provinces, while the DA continues to build 37 new schools in the Western Cape. Instead of making mindless threats, the ANC in the Western Cape would do well to educate themselves and discuss the matter with their own minister. The reality is that they won't, because this grandstanding is nothing but acts of desperation in the ANC's attempt to undermine the democratically elected DA Western government.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, with regard to the closure of the schools, perhaps to just share with the House that there were 27 schools that were earmarked for closure. The process that was then followed was a consultative process. We understand to what extent the consultation took place. We are not certain, but 20 schools were thereafter earmarked for closure. 7, the MEC had decided would remain open. We have also received information to the effect that in some instances where the children are going to be displaced from one school that is going to be closed to another, they would have to move or travel through gang-infested areas, and their security would be at risk. There is also information that has been made available to us that in some instances children are going to be relocated to a school further away, whereas between the further school and the school that is being closed, there is place available in historically advantaged areas. Our position, in fact, the minister, when she spoke about it, had been making a statement in relation to the preparations for the examination. She was then asked in relation to the closure of the school, and she set out the generic principles that apply to say that there must be a rational and legitimate basis for the closure of the school. In other words, it must be informed by rationally informed by circumstances that prevail, and that there are instances where schools might have a learner population of only 5 learners, which basically gives it a legitimate and reasonable basis for closure. The minister, under no circumstances, had evaluated and assessed the closure of each and every school in the Western Cape. What she spoke about is the legal responsibility that an MEC has in terms of closures and mergers of schools. And I think what is now happening is that we are attempting to spin it in a particular way to suggest that the minister is endorsing the decisions of the MEC. That is definitely not the case. What she spoke about were the generic principles. And indeed, if there is a legitimate and a rational basis to close a school, then so be it. We will support it. But if there is no legitimate and rational basis to do so, if the consultative process is intense enough, then certainly we would have to engage with it. Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker.
The lives of 18 families who lived near the Total Petrol Port, Magali's filling station, between Brett and Rustenburg outside Pretoria on the N4 freeway have improved after the construction of a freeway near their homes. Total SA has relocated the families from the Skirlek informal settlement to a nearby area with better living conditions. The families were moved from the N4 to a new section they have since named Silosisha to make way for the construction of a carriageway and off-ramps near the service station. A borehole has been made available for them, as well as vegetable garden and mini orchard. The families were also assisted to improve their makeshift structures, mostly corrugated iron shacks that they had before. The new area was fenced off, and they are also due to have a daycare center for their children. Most importantly, the families said they are happy they have been moved further away from the noisy freeway and can also apply for electricity connections, which was not possible previously. One of the residents, Dolitaba, 73, said she was grateful that the road had been developed, which had led to their relocation and improved lives. The ANC welcomes such partnerships in improving the lives of the vulnerable and disadvantaged. I thank you, Speaker.
I'm responding to the statement made by the ANC member, Pampiri Botman, regarding the Skirlek families who have moved away from the freeway, which is making noise, to the place where they're very happy. I just want to say it shows exactly what we say when we're saying working together we can do more.
And that, unfortunately, brings us to the end of today's program. Now, A View from the House will be off air tomorrow due to an extended broadcast of Morning Live. But please do join us again on Wednesday morning for another live broadcast from Parliament. Until then, from me and the team, it's goodbye.